In the previous video, we went ahead and set up our magnification settings, and now we want to do the zero settings. So these are, again, quite simple. So if we search for zero settings, we can make a new DA underscore zero settings underscore. And again, I'm going to put this as the optic. But before you actually do the name, it's probably a good idea to kind of cover what's inside of them because it's more or less universal in a way. So kind of based upon real life, you have mils, so MRAD, mil of radian, whatever you want to call it, and MOA, so minutes of angle. You can choose between the two of what you want. So depending on if you want to run in mils, you select MRAD. If you want MOA, you run, MOA. And then you have your terms of adjustment. So starting with MOA, if you ever see like an optic, like let's say you have a pistol dot or just an optic on your pistol, and the adjustments on those are typically not going to be as fine as, say, something you would have on your PRS gun. So like say you have like a 6.5 through 25 or something, something nice. That pistol dot, you don't need to jump and say quarter MOA increments. So when I say quarter MOA, 1 MOA is 1 inch at 100 yards. If you were to do a quarter MOA, that's going to be a quarter of an inch at 100 yards. So if you had 1 MOA, as just for each click, let's say you adjust your elevation 5 clicks, you're moving it 5 inches at 100 yards. So your crosshair has moved 5 inches. If you have it at a quarter of an MOA, you have moved your crosshair 1 inch, 1.25 inches. So the smaller amount, the more clicks you have, so to speak. So you're basically just getting finer adjustment. Moving to MRAD, it's the exact same concept, just I only have 0.1 because that's just what I commonly find. I haven't done much research to see what else there is, but they work in the same kind of manner. They are just different amounts of how much they move per click. And this assumes you're using my zero settings. So moving down here, you have the zero settings. Now this one's going to be quite hard to show because we don't have an actual projectile or anything like that set up at the moment. But essentially they are just kind of, it allows you to have a random starting zero, essentially. So like, let's say you have a DayZ. So you pick up just a firearm in DayZ, and then you look around, you pick up an optic. You throw that optic on the rifle. In DayZ, your rifle is going, wherever you're aiming through the optic is kind of where you're going to hit. Drop, let's exclude bullet drop. So no gravity. In the case of this, if you wanted to make it to where when you pick up an optic and put it on the rifle, you had to zero it because it was off, you would enable, one of these options. So here we can have a default starting zero, or we can have a random zero. So if you have this enabled with the default values, whatever you set up here, it's going to be. So in this case, you're going to have 25, up or down in the elevation. And down here, you're going to have 25 left or right in the windage. It's entirely up to if you even want that. But this would make it to where when the player puts an optic on the rifle after picking it up off the ground, they would have to then go and zero that rifle or that optic for the rifle you just put it on. So that's the whole idea kind of behind this feature here. So we're going to leave these off and everything by default and plug that in. However, we need to go ahead and name it. So this is what I was talking about regarding the naming and diving into it first. So in this case, because I am just using mil radians and there's only one setting there, we're going to go ahead and label it as such. So this is zero settings, and this is going to be for MRAD. And we'll just do 1. So that's going to represent a 0.1. Now, if we had another one, we could do, say, MOA underscore, let's do 1/4 or quarter. So 1x4, something like that. We'll change that to MOA and leave it at a quarter. And now we have this as such. So this is kind of the idea behind the data asset and the naming and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that made sense. It's it's kind of based upon more or less the real world, so use it as such. So you have a certain series of optics. If they all have their own, is it mil radian? Is it MOA? How much does it move per click? So on and so forth. Just create the data assets that you want to cover that range, and you can reuse them. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's really anything else to say in this regard. Hopefully that was helpful, but regardless, I will see you in the next video.